So you currently own a primary residence and you're thinking of buying a second home or potentially an investment property. Perhaps you had a friend tell you to tell your loan officer that it's a second home because you think there might be certain advantages to buying a second home over an investment property. Well, in this video, we're going to go through the differences between what it looks like to purchase a second home versus an investment property. If you haven't bought a primary residence yet, I do have a first-time home buyer video I recommend you check out before watching this one. I will link that in the description of this video. And if I haven't met you yet, my name is Connor Webb. I am a mortgage loan advisor, mortgage broker, and I assist my clients on directing them into the best loan product for their situation, whether it's a purchase, a refinance, or if they're selling a property and making their next move. Also keep in mind that I will be going through the Fannie Mae guidelines or the general conventional loan guidelines for a second home versus an investment property. So depending on which loan type you're going with and your situation, your qualifying and the numbers and the scenarios will be different. And one big benefit of myself being a mortgage broker is that I'm not directly tied to any one lender. So depending on your situation and what the market is doing, I'll direct you to whichever loan option and whichever lender is going to be best for your needs. If you'd like to get in touch with me, my contact information will be in the description of this video as well. And with that, let's get into the video. Here's what we're going to get into in this video. First off, can you earn income with both properties? The short answer is yes, but we're going to get into those details. Also, what is the difference between a second home and an investment property? And then we're also going to get into the differences in the mortgage financing when looking to purchase or refinance a second home versus an investment property. So first off, can you earn income with both properties? The short answer is yes. With a second home, it's basically viewed as a secondary residence that you will live in for a certain part of the year. You can rent out your second home as a short-term rental, but it's technically viewed as a second residence that you will live in for a percentage of the year. So you can't technically have a long-term tenant in that property with a year-long lease agreement. And this more so comes up when you're looking to refinance a second home, but you have to live in the property for a certain percentage compared to the amount of time that you're renting out your second home for. To qualify for certain benefits on a second home, you need to be living in the property for at least 14 days or 10% of the time that you rent out the property for, whichever is greater. I would direct you to reach out to your CPA or your tax advisor about any potential tax benefits that come with a second home. Now, with an investment property, there's no real restrictions on how you can rent out this property. It could be a short-term rental, it could be a long-term rental. You can rent out each room individually. You can do it however you want. Again, reach out to your CPA about any potential benefits of owning an investment property. So exactly what is the difference between a second home and an investment property? Well, there's a few key differences. First off, with a second home, it has to be 50 plus miles outside of your primary residence. If you were to purchase a property that's within 50 miles of your current residence, then that would be viewed as an investment property. The rules at this point in time say that if you're buying a property to live in for part of the year, it needs to be 50 miles or further from your current residence. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense to live in that property for a part of the year. Also, with a second home, it has to be a single family residence. It cannot be a multi-family property like you can buy with an investment property. Another key difference, and often one that makes the difference in qualifying versus not qualifying for a second home, is that we cannot use potential rents from a second home in order to help you purchase that property. Whereas moving over to the investment side, the property can be located anywhere. It doesn't have a restriction on where you can purchase the property. You can buy a 2 to 4 unit or multifamily residence with an investment property. And if you're purchasing an investment property, we can use potential rents from that property to help you qualify. If you're looking to purchase an investment property, there's something called a rent schedule that we would order at the time of the appraisal. That rent schedule would show what current market rents are for that property per unit. We would then use 75% of that rent schedule to add to your current income to help you qualify for that purchase of the property. This is a big difference because if you were to be buying a single family investment property, we could use 75% of that potential rental income to help you qualify, versus with a second home, we cannot use any of that rental income to help you qualify. So even if you're buying a property that's outside of a 50-mile radius of your current residence, and it's a single family residence that you intend to also short-term rental, then it still might make sense to buy that as an investment property so that we can use those rents to help you qualify. There are also some key differences with your down payment. So with a second home, again, you can only buy a 1-unit property. There is a 10% down payment minimum or a 90% loan to value. So whatever the value of the property is, we can go up to 90% of that value as the potential total loan balance. Of course, if you put less than 20% down on a property, you will have to pay for mortgage insurance, unless you're able to qualify for creative financing, such as having a HELOC on your property to start out as well. If you're looking to refinance a home, the same requirements apply. For a rate and term refinance, you can go up to a 90% loan to value, versus if you were looking to pull cash out of a second home, then we can go up to 75% of the value of the property for that new loan amount. With an investment property, as you might imagine, the down payment requirements are higher. If you were to buy a 1-unit investment property, it would be a 15% down payment minimum compared to that second home where it's 10%. If you were to want to refinance a 1-unit investment property, we could go up to 85% of the value of the property for a rate and term refinance. If you're looking to cash out a 1-unit investment property, then again, we can go up to 75% of the value for the new loan amount. When you get beyond 1 unit, there's more risk, which means more requirements. So for a 2 to 4 unit investment property, the minimum down payment requirement is 25%. If you were to rate and term refinance, then we can go up to 75% of the value. Or if you're looking to do a cash out refinance on a multifamily investment property, then we can go up to 70% of the total value as the new loan amount. On top of the down payment requirements, there will also be asset requirements or reserve requirements for both of these scenarios. With a second home, after we factor in all of the cash to close, the down payment, the closing costs, you need to have 1 to 2 months of principal and interest and taxes and insurance, which stands for PITI, potentially more than the 1 to 2 months, depending on your situation. But you'll need to have that amount of reserves sitting somewhere in your assets to offset the risk of the purchase. With an investment property, you will need more reserves. Starting out with a single family investment property, you will likely need 6 months or more of PITI or principal and interest, taxes and insurance. And then the more units that you go up, if you go to a 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit, then you will need more reserves the higher up you go. On top of the down payment, the reserves, there's also going to be the interest rate differences. So a second home might have slightly better interest rates than an investment property. The reason for this is that a second home is viewed as less risky than an investment property. When a lender is looking to loan you a certain amount of money for a purchase or a refinance, essentially they're looking at the overall risk of the file and what is the probability that you're going to be able to pay back this loan. In general, primary residences are viewed as having the least amount of risk because the borrower is living in that residence, so there's a lower likelihood that they would default on that mortgage. Same thing with a second home, that borrower is probably living there for a certain percentage of the year. So since they're going to be living in that property for some amount of time, that is viewed as having less risk as an investment property. And like I state here, with an investment property, the higher risk equals higher rates and or the cost for interest rates. So if you're to buy a single family second home versus a single family investment property, your second home interest rate might be slightly better than an investment property. And in certain situations, like back during COVID when everyone was working remotely, the pricing for second homes was much better than investment properties. But as of right now, things have gotten back to normal. And for second homes compared to investment properties, there's not a huge difference, but there is a slight difference. I hope this video was able to answer some of your general questions on buying a second home versus an investment property. Again, any questions at all, feel free to reach out. Let's jump on a call and I'd be happy to explain. Otherwise, make sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and let me know what topics you'd like me to cover. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.